time in my life, I thought I'd have to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you're discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got to let it go. Let it all go. And this is what you have to say.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
I release, and I let go.
Let the Spirit
run my life.
and my heart
is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I'm free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
and I let go.
I let go. Gonna let the Spirit run my life.
And my heart
My heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I'm free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Good morning. Hi. Thank you, Celebration, Roderick, as always. Beautiful. So here we are again. Add another change. What a surprise, right? We are here. Well, on behalf of this sweet community, I am Reverend Cherie Taylor-Jones, and I'm here to welcome you. And if you are joining us online, thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing us as your spiritual family. And if you're here for the first time, we welcome you. This is an amazing community that really is open to whatever your path is. To connect to Source is acceptable, is divine, is welcomed here. What else is going on? Well, we've got the kids. The kids are now outside. The younger ones are outside due to the COVID restrictions, and the teens are masked up and they're in their room over at the Oaks. So some twisting again. Let's talk about our mission statement. Our mission statement is basically how we choose to show up in the world. And if you would join me together, we put God first, celebrate life, serve truth, and empower people to transform their lives. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about COVID. COVID-19, Delta variant. really virulent, and the Austin Department of Health has suggested that we all go back to wearing masks, whether we've been vaccinated or not vaccinated, and that we are also aware of social distancing. Today, just because we had to spin on a dime, we are just encouraging you, please, to stay masked, whether you're seated or standing. You'll notice my mask is off because I'm up here speaking, but when I go back over there, I'll put it on again. This week, the team is going to be meeting on Wednesday and just really carving out what it looks like going forward with the level 4 threat assessment. We are here to keep you safe. I gotta tell you, I'm just gonna break here and say, I don't wanna wear a mask. Can I just say that? I really don't want to wear a mask. I've gotten spoiled. I've gotten spoiled at looking at people's faces. I've gotten spoiled putting on makeup again and all the lip stuff. I've gotten spoiled. And I also know that this is what the scientists, the doctors, CDC, WHO, are recommending for us to keep each other safe. So I will do that because your safety matters to me, and I know that you care about what happens to other people. So thank you for making this as easy as possible on us. It was a really hard decision for me last week. I was a little kind of mopey because I saw the numbers creeping up, and I knew this was a coming. If you have kids, if you're a parent that has kids, I'm going to invite you to send me or Linda an email about your thoughts, your concerns, and your desires, because we're going to be making that call on Wednesday, and I want you to feel that you've had input on what's happening here. There will be no hospitality after service, but there will be coffee if you'd like that, and there's some free pastries outside of the fellowship hall that you can take home with you. We were going to have a going deeper session today after service, but we've canceled that because of what we're dealing with right now. So hopefully we will be able to reschedule that at some point in the near future. So it is my honor to invite my husband, Graham, up to do the opening prayer.
And center in. If you're in the sanctuary and you feel comfortable, please close your eyes. If you're online, please make sure it's safe to do so. If you're comfortable, join us by closing your eyes. We take this moment to lift up all of those who have lost loved ones at this time. Whether it's COVID-related or not, whether it was long expected or devastatingly sudden, we send to you peace, comfort, and hope. And for those of us who know loved ones who are in pain, we now mobilize you to perform acts of thoughtful, loving care as we intentionally create a community of love in action, God in skin. We bring to mind those who are confused and troubled by these new developments. We send to you knowledge and understanding for your highest good so that you can make the right decision for your unique situation. And we pray for those in authority who have to set the rules. We now anoint you with divine wisdom and divine courage. And know that as you come from that place, you will make the right and perfect decision for us. We send love to everyone, regardless of your vaccinated status, regardless of your political affiliation. This community sends out love into the world to everyone, no exceptions. And as we bring our focus down to this congregation, we say, sweet, loving, powerful Spirit, we set the intention this morning to have an open heart and an open mind. Because today, we get to look at our past events, past actions, and possibly painful past hurts. And we commit to doing this with grace and kindness, with forgiveness and love. and we remember the immense love and connections we have with each other that will see us through this time. We pray this with the authority and the power that is already inside of us to bring this into being. We see it complete. We know it to be manifest. And together we say amen. 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 And as we let it be.
This song's dedicated to everyone who made it through many tests and trials, hopeless situations. Now you have a story the angels can't sing in glory. You're redeemed by the love that will set you free. Whether it's in the courtroom, fighting in the boardroom, trying to feed your family, or kicked out underneath you, God is more than able. God can turn the tables. So turn and tell your neighbor, now it's time for you to return the favor. Can I get a witness? I just need one more witness. God's still working miracles, opening doors that were closed before. God's still making ways when others say that there ain't no way.
You know this is true.
This is what I need you to do. Get up with me and say, can't nobody tell it like me. Can't nobody say it like me. You don't know the story like me. It's my testimony. Can't nobody praise him like me. Can't nobody praise him for me. He gave me the victory, and now I got a testimony.
Anybody
ever had a sickness? Been bound by any illness? Laid up in the sick room.
And the doctor
says there's nothing he can do. And while they called your family, he cried out, Lord, please help me. And you deep down inside, God can heal you.
Now let's move forward.
And the doctors can't explain it. Some way, somehow you made it. You never stop believing. Now you're walking in your healing. Everything's not perfect, but you don't look like what you've been through. Now you can tell somebody if he did it for me, he can do it for you. Hey! I get a witness. I just need one more witness. God's still working miracles, opening doors that were closed before. God's still making ways when others say that there ain't no way.
If you know this is true,
This is what I need you to do. Get up with me and say, can't nobody tell it like me. Can't nobody say it like me. You don't know the story like me. It's my testimony. Can't nobody praise him like me. Can't nobody praise him for me. He gave me the victory, and now I got a testimony. It's my hey.
said it's my
It's my testimony.
I got it.
I got a testimony. It's my hey.
Said it's my
It's my testimony.
I got it.
You got it. I got a testimony.
Get up with that.
And I get a witness. Just need one more witness. God's still working miracles.
Opening
Opening doors that were closed before. God's still making ways. When others say that there ain't no way.
If you know this is true,
This is what I need you to do. Get up with me and say, can't nobody tell it like me.
can't nobody
say it like me.
do no.
You don't know the story like me.
Because it's
my testimony. Can't nobody praise him like me. Can't nobody praise it for me. He gave me the victory, and now I got a testimony.
Becca, I just want to say I just love watching the art that is you, baby. So we're going to talk about the big, pink, polka-dotted elephant in the room. You know, when I started here at Unity Church of the Hills, one of the things that I told you is that I talk about what's going on, what's currently here, what the energy is, what the situation is. That is mine to do. Now, I've been wanting to talk about Reverend Kristen and Brian for a while, but I also knew that there's some woundedness there. And I needed you to know who I was and how I approach issues before I went there. I hope that you have this sense of trust in me in that whatever the issue, the situation is, I'm going to talk about it from a place of love, of forgiveness, of kindness. And it just felt like right now is the auspicious time to do this work. And we also have another shut the front door growth opportunity with the pandemic, right? Forced to deal once again with this acceleration of the surge that's happening here as we figure out how to work again in a threat of level 4 assessment. But here's what I do know. We have proven we are resilient. We have proven that we can pivot and do what is ours to do to support ourselves, our families, and our communities. You know, sometimes I think the word change is a dirty letter, 6-letter word. Change, that 6-letter dirty word. The pandemic has forced us to do a tremendous amount of change as far as our society goes and as individuals. Change is defined by the dictionary as to make different, to alter. It also says to make radically different, as in transform. Now, we all talk about we want transformation. We want to be transformed, and yet transformation cannot happen emotionally, physically, or spiritually without change. So I'm going to talk not only about the pandemic, but I'm going to talk about the Grandins. You see, the phrase, the elephant in the room, is a metaphor for an important or enormous topic or controversial issue that everyone knows about, but no one mentions or wants to discuss. And the reason for this behavior, multitude. It's uncomfortable. We don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. We don't want to be frustrated, angry, or embarrassed. But let's look at this, because this leaving of the Grandins was a huge impact on this community. There was an abrupt departure, and many of you were surprised, and frankly, some of you were shocked. And this was an earthquake that shook the foundations of this community. One day they were your ministers, the next day they were not. Some members of this community felt heartbreak over this action, while others felt kind of relief. But whichever side of the aisle you were on regarding this issue, one thing is the same. We really didn't talk about this controversy as a community. As a community. Sure, there were rumors and speculations, imagined illegal and nefarious acts by the ministers, and even some distrust of your board. And we may have spoken about our fears, our angers, our resentment, displeasure, whatever feelings were coming up, maybe even happiness, amongst our affinity groups. You know, our tribes, let's call it what it is. But the question is, as a community, have we processed the enormity of this occurrence? Have we processed it? Thank you, I worked really hard on that graphic. So I want to let you know that is part of who I am, to be in integrity, to be authentic, I've had several discussions with the Grandins. And they have been really warm and generous in their time as they chatted with me. And they wanted to share with me their immense love for this community. And they were wonderful enough to send continued blessings to us as we are in our new partnership of minister and community. And I'm also aware that some of you are in contact with the Grandins. You know why? Because you still love them. And for those who have told me that they are in contact with the Grandins and that they still love them, you know what my response has been? Of course you still love them. As humans, we can love several people at the same time. You know, it's like love is not finite. It's not unlimited. And love is simply the frequency of the divine. It knows no bounds. It knows no bounds. So for those of you who are still in love with the Grandins, there's no need to feel ashamed or to feel like you betrayed me or anything like that. It's okay. And nor does it mean that anyone needs to blame you for loving them. And for those who blame the Grandins, or maybe the board of directors, or maybe the staff, for the upheaval that happened in our community, I'm hoping that the tools that I've shared with you in the past and that I will share with you today will really help you to shift into forgiveness. And the reason that I'm mentioning forgiveness is that without that ability to forgive, our hearts will remain closed off in that area. Did you hear me? Without forgiveness, our hearts will remain closed off in that area. And since the area that we're talking about being closed off on is this spiritual community, then you know I got to ask some questions, right? So how are you engaging here? Are you waiting for the other shoe to drop? Are you wondering, how long will I last as your minister? Are you waiting to see if the board, the staff, and I are in alignment before you trust again? Before you support us again? You see, when an issue as big as this happens in a community such as ours, its human tendency is to shy away from tackling something like this. Because we're afraid that if we touch it, it will open up this whole can of worms and we won't be able to wrangle it. But the more we don't talk about it, the more it festers and the bigger that pink polka-dotted elephant becomes. To be a healthy congregation, we need to go towards the issues, not away from them. Towards the issues, not away from them. And healthy communities are unafraid of conflict. They're unafraid of feeling uncomfortable. They know that being able to deal with conflict is part of spiritual growth, part of emotional maturity. And guess what? Healthy congregations attracts healthy members. So my beloved, we have a choice. We always have a choice. We have a choice to engage in healing and wholeness or to remain in unforgiveness and blame. But be aware that holding on to unforgiveness is suffering. And suffering is a choice. Suffering is a choice. The reality is life is not idyllic. It seldom lives up to our expectations. And you know, my favorite mantra that I say to myself regularly, my happiness is inversely proportional to my expectations. Do you hear that? My happiness is inversely proportional to my expectations. So guess what? That means that your happiness is inversely proportional to your expectations. Well, that's a good question. Expectations. Expectations are how we think the world should look, how we think people should be with us, how we think they should behave. That's our expectations, as opposed to allowing people to be who they are on their journey, on their level of discovery, of their coming to the awareness of oneness. We don't know what somebody's journey should be, but yet we impose these expectations on them. No, I'm not, that's another sermon there. Okay. So, we could continue the behavior of focusing on the feelings that life is unfair or that this situation is unjust, which simply keeps us in a place of suffering. Again, I remind you, suffering is a choice. Or we could choose to forgive and be in the frequency of the divine, which is love. Practicing forgiveness is an inclusive act for a community. It means forgiving those who may have acted inappropriately or with misguided conviction. Let's face it, our experiences on planet Earth is about having those human experiences and making choices of how we want to respond. Are we going to react in vengeance, blame, or shame? Or are we willing to give up our claim of retributions towards the offender? The reality is that we may never get what we perceive as justice, but if we are obsessed and committed to that outcome, we have lost so much joy, so much of our life in that pursuit. And the only thing we ever really have control over is ourselves. That's right, ourselves, our thoughts, our words, our actions. The outcomes, my friend, we never have control over. We might give ourselves the illusion that that's true, but we never have control of the outcomes. So when we think about the surprise and disappointment of how the Grandins left, we have a choice. We can hold on to the blame and unforgiveness, or we can engage in a way that leads to forgiveness and love. And I'm encouraging you to choose forgiveness, to choose love. Because that pathway starts being able to be in dialogue with each other. And while we are in dialogue with each other, it's important not to take sides, but to enter into the conversation with an air of curiosity and neutrality. What questions could you ask from that place of curiosity? Well, what dynamics created the abrupt departure of the Grandins? What can leadership share that will help me to understand? What are some experiences that made you make the decision that you made? Should we have done this differently? And if so, how? And then we listen. We listen to the answers that are given. We put ourselves in their shoes for a moment as they share their experiences, and we hold compassion for their walk. And here's the thing, being compassionate doesn't mean we agree with them. Being compassionate means that we hold the knowing that they made the best decision they could with the facts at that time. Simple. Simple. So here's my understanding. Here's my understanding of the situation with the Grandins. There was a lack of resonance. We talk about resonance, right? We talk about when we are in resonance, there's this energetic expansiveness. But when you're not in resonance, there's a contraction, there's a constriction. And so they weren't in resonance with the staff and a percentage of the membership and with the board. The Grandins did not do anything illegal. There wasn't any embezzlement. There was nothing unethical. There was none of that. But as attendance and income were dwindling, that called for a decision to be made. And here's how the decision is made: by our bylaws. Our bylaws dictate how we operate and run as a business, from the business side. And in this particular bylaw, 7.08, it talks about the selection or termination of the senior minister. And this is how it's done. You can hire by a 2/3 majority vote of active members on the board, or you can terminate by that same vote. That's how it's done. Now, whether you agreed or disagreed with the actions taken, it doesn't matter because it has already been done, my friends. It's done. The question is, are you willing to forgive the hurts? And so in this situation, I'm suggesting that we use a forgiveness practice that we did last week, the Ho'oponopono, right? Because that prayer supports us in this process. The premise again is that we look within ourselves to heal the part of us that is in creation with what we see and what we experience. We all hold the knowing, the truth that we are co-creators with divine mind. But we're not only creating what we think are good things, we're creating all of it, my friends. And the Ho'oponopono is about taking full responsibility for everything, simply because it is in our lives. Simply because it is in our lives. And then that moves us away from separation, from them, us, to oneness. To oneness. And the idea then that nothing exists that we are not a part of. Nothing. We are at the heart of it all, and to forgive ourselves, to heal ourselves, is crucial in healing the situation. So we're going to pause for a minute, and we're going to do a little Ho'oponopono. So bring the consciousness to your consciousness, Revs Brian and Kristen. Bring the board of directors, bring the staff in to your consciousness. And because we are in COVID, I'm going to chant. If you want to chant, you can. If you want to just do it in your mind, you can. If you want to hum, it's okay. I'm going to do it 4 times. And we're holding the Grandins, the boards of directors, and staff in our energy of forgiveness. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So this week, anytime that you get those negative thoughts about this situation where you want to blame your spiritual community, you want to blame someone or something, I invite you to chant the Ho'oponopono prayer. Because once you're able to forgive, then you have the ability to come up to a higher frequency. You're not stuck in the minutia. You're not stuck in that heavy energy. You're up here in your highest self, making choices, making decisions. You get to be the frequency of love. And you get to make requests about how you'd like to see things done in the future if things of this nature occur. You get to ask how you would like things to be handled in the future. You get to actualize the process of amending the bylaws, because that's our governance, if you feel called to do that. That's in your remit. And most importantly, and why we do this work, my loves, is that you get to be fully engaged here. Both feet in, body in, heart in, soul in, spirit in. That you are here. You're not split off thinking about something else that happened how long ago? What? You are here. But what happens when that big polka-dotted elephant in the room isn't a person but a situation? Like the pandemic. Here we are again. But remember, back in March 2020, it upended our lives. Upended our lives. We were forced to stay home to isolate from friends, from family, from work, from our spiritual community. And when we did go out for essentials, we were masked, and hand sanitizer was our significant other. And here's the thing, our brains were simply having a hard time processing all these new ways of being. You see, for so many of our day-to-day functions in the past, it's all been without thinking about it. We've been on automatic pilot for those low-level functionalities. But during the pandemic, we had to stop and think about every little thing. Okay, do I need a glove for this? Do I not need a glove for this? Do I mask up? Do I not mask? It was constant. And going to the grocery store became an event in navigating hurdles, obstacles, and getting creative when the things that we take for granted should be there weren't there. Our brains were forced to process each new dilemma or situation. And for the first few months, people were really kind of cranky. I know I was. I don't know about you. You probably were enlightened already. But I was cranky. I was cranky. And in this pandemic, a lot of us were not able to address the losses that we were experiencing. Yes, we were able to understand that if we lost a loved one to the pandemic, to COVID, that yes, that's a loss. But then it was the added burden there is we couldn't even mourn them the way that we were used to mourning them. But what wasn't addressed is the grief associated with the loss of certainty, the loss of life as we knew it, the loss of doing what we wanted to, when we wanted to, how we wanted to, and nobody was going to say a damn thing about it, right? We took that grief and turned it into anger, which we reveled in and at those people who created this mess. And even after the mask came off and isolation ended, we were still angry and confused by this new normal. And just when we started to breathe and feel like, okay, we're safe, we can go out to dinner and dancing, we can do all this stuff, here we are again, grappling with this virulent wave of COVID-19. And we're being told we've got to wear masks again, indoors and socially distance again. And many of us are sad and ticked off by this radical change, impacting our lives again. For many, we are in resistance to this change and have the reaction to be in opposition to the mask mandates. We can call on the facts for the masks or against the masks. They're out there. We can blame the government. We can blame health experts. We can blame those who got vaccinated. We can blame those who did not get vaccinated. But in all our anger, frustration, and blame, it doesn't change the facts. And so we need to practice forgiveness in this as well, my friends. Often we think forgiveness is an action of helplessness and a surrender to powerlessness. We think that if we forgive, then that we are weak and we will forfeit our right to stop that wrong from happening. But forgiveness practices allows us to be free of that rage and come into rightness. In the act of forgiveness, we perform an alchemy. Do you remember the alchemies? It was like a big thing in the what is that? I want to say, I lost the word there. Thank you, Middle Ages, somebody's with me. Right? And it was like turning things into gold, right? But we do perform alchemy, my friends. We do. Because the act of forgiveness, we turn our prison bars into freedom. We turn our hardened hearts into expansive love. And we turn our resentments into possibilities. If that's not alchemy, I don't know what is. And forgiveness is not a cowardice way of being. It's a gift of self-love. which allows us to be wise in our actions, allows us to have a life well lived. So for this one, I want to share with you this Buddhist forgiveness meditation practice, and this is what we will do today in our meditation. It's 3 parts. To those whom I may have caused harm, knowingly or unknowingly, through my thoughts, words, and actions, I ask your forgiveness. To those who may have caused me harm, knowingly or unknowingly, through their thoughts, words, and actions, I offer my forgiveness. For any harm I may have caused myself, knowingly or unknowingly, through my thoughts, words, and actions, I offer my forgiveness. When we do the meditation, I'm going to keep it simple for you. I want you to have the whole thing, but when we do it, we're going to do the red part and the blue part, which is, to those whom I may have caused harm, I ask your forgiveness. To those who may have caused me harm, I offer my forgiveness. For any harm I may have caused myself, I offer my forgiveness. So, beloved, let's get ready for meditation as celebration comes on up, gives us their magic. Allow it to open your heart, your mind. Put yourself in that meditative stance with your spine erect, feet on the ground.
Be blessed, my brother. Be blessed, my sister. Be blessed wherever this life is you. Let me encourage you. Let me speak life to you. You can depend on God to see you through. You can depend on me to pray for you. You might be crying, you might be worrying and frustrated too. Let me encourage you. Let me speak life to you. You can depend on God to see you through. You can depend on me to pray for you. Pray. I'm gonna keep on praying. Pray. I'm gonna keep on praying for you. Pray. I'm gonna keep on praying. Pray. I'm gonna keep on praying for you. You can depend on God to see you through. You can depend on me to pray for you. I see you in the future, and you look better. I see you walking in favor and prosperity too. Let me encourage you. Let me speak life to you. You can depend on God to see you through. You can depend on me to pray for you. change things. I pray for you, you pray for me, and watch God change things. I pray for you, you pray for me, and watch God change things. I pray for you, pray for me, watch God change things. I pray for you, you pray for me, and watch God change things. I pray for you, you pray for me, and watch God change things.
Lex, love hearing your voice come through strong and beautiful. So let's take this time for ourselves. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale. One more time. Deep breath in and breathe out. Releasing, releasing, releasing. As we come to this time of prayer and forgiveness for ourselves, for this pandemic, for everyone dealing with it in their own way, in the best they know how. And we release the judgments, we let that go. We release the blame, we let that go. We release the shame, we let that go. And we breathe into this lightness as we say the phrases. You may say it silently in your mind, you may speak it, all is acceptable. Together, to those whom I may have caused harm, I ask forgiveness. To those who may have caused me harm, I offer my forgiveness. For any harm I may have caused myself, I offer my forgiveness. Breathe, deep breath in. Hold it, exhale. Releasing again, releasing again. Together, to those whom I may have caused harm, I ask for your forgiveness. To those who may have caused me harm, I offer my forgiveness. For any harm I may have caused myself, I offer my forgiveness. Deep breath in again. Hold. Let go. Last time. Together. To those whom I may have caused harm, I ask your forgiveness. To those who may have caused me harm, I offer my forgiveness. For any harm I may have caused myself, I offer my forgiveness. Deep breath again. And release. And let go and just feel the lightness, my friends. You are being reborn anew. You are being called higher. You are being called to your purpose. Now is the time. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. And so it is. Namaste.
Good morning, Unity Church of the Hills. It is now time of our service where we are to give joyfully as we have been given to. We released, we let go, and we are here in joy, here in love, and here to give back. So this Sunday is a little bit different because we won't have the ushers coming down, but there will be a basket at the end of the sanctuary. And if you're giving online, that is still the same number. You can give to the app, you can mail a check. You can drive it up here and hand it to somebody. That is acceptable as well. Make sure you sanitize your hands first. Just kidding. So let us come together and give in joy and give in love and say our divine blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful.
Oh, eh, oh, eh, oh, oh, eh, oh, eh, oh. I like living the good life, living the high life where all things are possible in Christ. Living the good life, I'm walking in the light where all things are possible. Hey!
You can make it with God on your side. Who can stop you? There's no need to hide. If God is for us, who stands against us? I'm gonna run, I'm gonna run, I'm gonna run.
It's time to celebrate, we're on the winning side. No time to stand up and no one's behind. Our love's on fire, lift spirit higher. I'm gonna shout, I'm gonna shout, I'm gonna shout.
I like living the good life, living the high life where all things are possible in Christ. Living the good life, I'm walking in the light where all things are possible. Hey!
That was fabulous. Yes, it was. The band, the band, the band. Woo! All right, so you know the prayer chaplains, they're hanging out in the chapel. If you'd like to get some affirmative prayer and hold you and your family in the knowing of safety and health during this time, go. All right, what else is happening out there in the foyer? We're got so many things going on. Well, you know, the produce is out there, which is absolutely delicious. I've been eating lots of salads, and Graham's getting really creative with these wrappy things with the produce. I'm down. I got spoiled. Neil gave me some of his pickled cucumbers. I was like, ooh, my new favorite. All right, there's the school supply drive. So please check it out there. The supplies are due back by August 1st. Rainbow Fellowship is out there. T-shirts, if you bought them already, they're in, so you can pick them up. And if you want to participate in that parade, August 14th, sign up. So you know I'm going to be there, shaking my groove thing, going down the parade route, just so you know. Board nominations. Each year we look at how many board members' terms are up, and we have 3 members' terms that are up. We're also in an amazing position that all 3 of them have agreed to run again. So that's pretty awesome, yeah. And if you feel called to also submit your name or someone's name that you feel can also support and do on the board, that's not a grammatically correct sentence, but you know what I mean. There are forms and a box out there for you to put the nominee in, and the deadline for that is August 15th. So think about it, let it percolate a little bit. All right, so do you know what's happening next week? Next week we are saying yes to renewal. You know, we live in a society that we are so conditioned. Success, you have to be productive. You have to be productive every moment of the day. And if we take any time for ourselves, it's almost like guilt that we feel in relaxing and playing and having fun. So we're going to talk about that next week, of just getting rid of that erroneous belief and really stepping into the divine knowing that renewal and rest and fun is how we stay successful and so young. If you look around here, we're pretty young for Unity, folks, and I think that we're really learning how to do that balance so nicely. So that's next week. Frank, I'm going to ask you to come up here for a moment. This is Frank Felon. He is our board president. I work really closely with Frank, and I have to tell you that his consciousness is just a beauty to behold. He loves this community. He has stepped in remarkable ways when there was no minister here. And I just wanted to share this moment with him to say that we had hoped to go deeper after this service today, but we want to honor and hear you and hear where you are regarding the issue of the Grandins. So at the end, I'm going to pull him with me at the end, and if you really feel called to have a conversation, you can email either one of us. We can set up a group, something, whatever you feel you want to do to finish that last bit of processing. We want you to know that we want to hear each and every one of you. Okay? All right, perfect protection time.
All right.
Stay with me.
Roll with it.
Okay. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, everyone.